Hey guys, my name is Zulfkar. You are watching Polity International. We are going to give an insight into ideal state given by Aristotle. Before starting our lecture, it's requested to you that if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe it. If you like my video, give thumbs up and also comment your views on this video. Let's start. First, we will discuss content of this video. These are the areas on which we will be talking. First, we will comment on this lecture. Then we will move toward our second point, that is basic understanding, the basic points, the basic footings that Aristotle has given to his ideal state. After constructing the state, we will go to the sovereignty of ideal state. And third point is size of state. What ideal size was in Aristotle's mind. After discussing the size of the state, we will be discussing ministries or services that ideal state will offer. After discussing that, we will be discussing the educational system of ideal state. Then we will discuss the training and eugenics. Definitely that training will be taken through the eugenics. So we will discuss training, and this training area, there will be some other areas that will be included like marriage, child development, rational training, and unique value of music. These come into the educational system or training system. So we will discuss them. After discussing these points, we will move toward the abrupt conclusion that Aristotle has given. And finally, we will present our critiques. In that critique, we will compare ideal state of Aristotle with ideal state of Plato. So these are the areas on which we will be talking in this lecture. So let's start. First, some points that are very important to know. Keep in mind that his ideal state is given in his book Polity, book 8, as he was convinced that ideal state that Plato has concocted is not possible, that is not feasible. So he is wise enough to suggest a state that is at least achievable. So he is practical man. Because of his practicability, he is known as first political scientist. So first political philosopher. He says aspiration of state should conform to the aspirations of citizen. Consequently, the form of constitution ideally must reflect the good life. Here I have highlighted the word good life. So this is the base of his ideal state. On this point, he have constructed his ideal state. He says ideal state is one which gives good lives to citizens. And then he defines what is the good life, what are the goods of life. On this point, we will build up his ideal state. We will build up his concept. So let's go. There are threefold ingredients of good life. There are threefold ideals of good life. What are these threefold ideals of good life? First is the external good. There are goods that which are external. Second is good of body. Third is good of soul. These are the three goods according to Aristotle. About first good, he says that the excessive concern for material possessions. There are many things that belong to us that are really good. Our house, our vehicles, our material properties, our mobile phones, our laptops. These are our money. These are external good. And second are the good of body. That body exactly how it is. If it is neat, if it is clean, beautiful like that. These are the goods of body. Powerful. This have all nutrients. He correctly emphasizes the good of soul. He says that what is truly important is good of soul. Soul is really important. If your soul is good, then you are good. So all other goods should be directed toward this good. Good state directs all other goods toward this. So this is what Aristotle says. This is his basic point. He says these are three goods that a state can provide to a man. But his major focus will be a state will direct all two goods toward the good of soul. So he says that these all good contribute toward the betterment. All goods can give happiness, but that priority can be different. What is the characteristic of a good state? The good state will be moral, and second is non-aggressive. Third is emphasize on internal peace and improvement, and final is maintain sufficient military for defense without causing annoyance to neighbor. These are the characteristics of good state. Now he comes to the sovereignty. I have not discussed this in detail because there's separate lecture for his sovereignty. He has assigned sovereignty to constitution, and there's separate lecture for that on constitutionalism of Aristotle. So I will not discuss this in detail. Here I will simply say that sovereignty of state he have assigned to constitution. So he is very fond of constitutionalism. After that, what would be the size of a state? He says size should not be too large or too small. It should be medium. If it would be small, then people fall into the trap of livelihood. Or if it would be too large, then the people will fall in the luxuries. So these two things must be avoided. Fifth point is location of state. This is very important. We have discussed this location in very detail. We will construct this location. What should be considered for this location? So these are major 2 points that should be considered for location. First is military advantage, and second is commercial advantage. On these 2 points, the location of state should be decided. He says the state must be strategically located for defense and for naval and trading purpose. He says the state should be located in such a way that it would be easy to defend it and there would be easy access to sea. These are 2 points. But he says this can cause 2 types of problems. What are problems? We are going to discuss here. The problems are, first is preoccupied with naval power. If it would be near the sea, then it would have to be keep its naval forces. Second is it would be preoccupied with wealth that may flow from the marine. These are both are the problems. Then he suggests the solution for them. First, if it would be entrapped by the naval power, then what is the solution for that? He says for this solution is that naval must be sufficient for defense, but should be excluded from bad politics. Our number would enable them to overpower the citizenry. Now what will happen if there be a large number of army and a naval force, and this is involved in politics? Then this will cause to overpower state, its citizenry. So avoid it. It should be separated from politics. Second problem is that occupied with wealth that might flow from the marine. He says this is the problem, that if a state will become too much prosperous and lot of money flow toward them, then they will fall into luxuries. So to avoid this, he says that should import necessities and export its surplus. Only its own, not other states. He says should not work as a shipper or broker for other states. A state should not work for other countries as a broker, as a shipper. So if it will do this, it will earn too much money. That's not in favor of that state. Finally, he says that purpose of self-sufficiency, not profit. Here purpose is self-sufficiency. His profit is not his purpose. Then he discusses services and ministries of ideal state. What ministries, what services should be there in ideal state? He says there should be 6 types of services in his state. What are these services and how these are divided in people? Who will work in separate services? These are the 6 type of services that state can offer. First is agriculture. Second is arts and craft. Third is land ownership. Fourth is defense, government services, religion. These are the 6 services that state will offer. But note that I have colored differently to all services. I have made groups of different sets. See here. There's first group, then there's second group, and then third group. So these are different groups that I have made. There's reason behind these. So who will work for separate services? We are going to separate them on the basis of their functionality. The first 2 services are assigned to lower class. Only lower class will work with these services. These services are assigned to lower group or lower class. And third service is land ownership is two type. First is land owned by the government, and second is land owned by people. These are two type of lands are there in the country. First is owned by government and second is owned by people. The first type of land, the profit earned by the government owned land will be spent on these two type of people. First is supply system of commoditable. This is for common people. And second is to support institution of public worship. What is purpose? Why Aristotle is doing this? The purpose behind is this. He says this will create harmony and unity in the state. And about the privately owned land, he says this should be kept in mind that this privately owned land will not be plowed by the people themselves. But this the workers would be the slaves and serfs, not people themselves will be working on these fields. He says every person will have two type of plots or two plots. One is near city and second is near borderline of the state. And where he is doing this, he says when there will be war in the country, all will be concerned with them. Everyone will think that my land will be snatched in that war. So he is suggesting because of this reason. Finally, he discusses defense, government services and religion. All citizens will be working on these areas. First is given to the youngsters and second is given in defense. There will be only youngsters that will be working, and in government services, those who are middle ages will be working. And for religion, he have assigned old people. Only old people are responsible to serve the religion. And in this way, he have divided these type of services and he have assigned the duties to them. After discussing this, he proceeds. He talks on education system. What type of education system should be there in ideal state? How that education system can create that type of state. He says that about that I am talking that can be created by education system of that country. How? Let's see. Here, the first slide that we have discussed already. I will not waste your time here. I'm going to give you just a recap to that slide that there are three types of good. External good, good of body and good of soul. But he says how these good can be achieved. How these two type of good can be directed toward this good. To do this, he says this is education system that will direct these two type of good toward this good. Good of soul. The soul can be made more perfect, more better, and to make aligned with the necessities of the state. But he says here he questions. There are three type of means. Natural endowment. Second is proper habits. Third is rational principles or capacity to reason. These are three types of means to good. To achieve goods, these are three means. But here he says the first good is not possible to improve or degrade it because it's natural. We can do nothing to this good. This is natural and God gifted. No one can do anything with this. This is given by nature. Like some people are singers, some people are poets, some people are. Everyone has his own qualities, and some people are powerful or so and so. So these goods are naturally gifted, and second is proper habits, and third is rational principles. But he says these final two can be achieved. Final two can be built up. But how? He says these can be improved by education. By education system, these two goods can be achieved. Proper habit and rational principle. These goods can be improved by education. So here his treatise converts into treatise of education. So he discusses from here onward education. Though he does not give complete plan of education, but he discusses some feature that I am listing here. He says education will be common for all. Second feature, he say this is publicly supported, not privately. in that time there were sophists, but he does not recognize sophists like Plato. So he says sophists are not allowed. And third is, he says produce good citizen. The purpose of this state should be to produce good citizen. Look here, these are the feature of this state. You will confuse later. So note this. These are the features of good state, the good education system that he suggests. And then he goes forward and says, two type of distinction must be made. First is different part of soul must be recognized, and second thing, different aspect of life must be recognized. These two are the purposes of education. And different parts of soul. What are the different parts of soul? One is rational or reasoning part of soul. Second is obeying part of soul. Two part must be distinguished. And this the proper education system will do this. And second thing, the different aspect of life that will be distinguished. First is action, warlike action. And second is layer. These two things will be distinguished, will be separated, will be understood by the state. So after doing this, he says that what education should be there. He gives a plan for that education. However, that plan is not detailed like Plato, but some features he have discussed that education system. I am going to present them here. In which he says one is habit forming, second is physical development. In habit forming, he says that there will be course of reading, writing, and drawing. These type of course will be taken by the student. But he separates physical development. He says physical development should be taken first in the early age, from birth to the age of 5, 7 or like that, and then a student must go to the habit forming or learning stage like courses including reading, writing and drawing. In physical development, he says that kids should go to the training. What type of training that should be? He discusses the training in detail in the following way. But before discussing that training, that's very important, I will discuss some slides, one or two, and then we will come back and learn about the training of student that must be given. So here are something that must be kept in mind. All these factors are important. He says factors. Which factors? Aspects of life we have already discussed, and different part of soul are very important, very necessary in life. Proper educational system will take each into account and never overemphasize any of them. Here he gives example. He says Sparta failed because their educational system overemphasized obeying part of soul and action. These things should have regarded as mean to end, not ends of good life. He says that what Sparta did. Sparta has overemphasized the action part and the part of obeying part of soul. He said obeying must of course be trained. From this training comes the development of proper habits. But in point of the time, the good habits come first. He says however, the obedience is important. But good habits are more important than the obedience. And with child, this must see training in rational principle for preparing best material. He discusses eugenics. He comes to the eugenics and discusses eugenics, how eugenics can make that possible. He says first, the proper habits should be formed. A student will be developed in such a way that his habits should come first, and these habits will direct people to the that will bring both obedience, good habits and all these things. But here, before I left this point, empathy, here I have included eugenics. We are going to discuss here eugenics with detail. What is eugenics? Eugenics is proper breeding and developing of child in desirable way. So here he says that marriages of citizen must be regulated in some aspect. What are these aspects in which these marriages should be regulated? He said to produce best children, the age of male should be 37 and age of female should be 18. This is the base age in which the base children can be produced. Then he says the large family should be avoided by following ways, like the exposure of deformed children, and second is induction of marriage. These two things can be taken to avoid overpopulation in the country. So third thing, a proper age in which people should produce children. Before or after that, they cannot produce them. Then he comes to the during pregnancy, a mother should exercise, and then he says that infant should give in much milk and little wine. And then he goes to the this should be compelled to exercise to great deal and should be accustomed of cold. So children should be compelled to exercise more and they should be accustomed of cold. And he says association with slaves should be restricted and language of the children should be prevented to spoil. So these things should be kept in mind. And finally, he says that primary training directed toward the development of strong physics and good habits. After this, rational thing will start. Here he clearly says that after this rational training will start study. Study will follow this. Here he says these both cannot be taken simultaneously. First, people will go habit forming, like this happens in Japan, and then children will go to learning or study. About eugenics, he says this may have utilitarian value, and it will enable people to carry ordinary activities of life. And then he says that this also will contribute to the material welfare of life, as people will have good habits and they will be active, then they perform better. Then he praises music too much and says that music, including literature and lettered art, is different from other disciplines. This is really different, and that there is intrinsic rather than merely utilitarian value. It's good to end and itself. This is both. This is mean to good and good itself. So music is good. And finally, he abruptly concludes his book 8 without pre-announcing that I am going to conclude my book. So he abruptly concludes his book, and then here our video is getting too large, and we will stop it here. And in the next video, we will discuss the critical analysis of his ideal state given by renowned authors like Anas Bakar, Yudhama, Shele, and others. You are requested to subscribe my channel. If you like my video, give thumbs up. If you have any question, you can comment. In next video, we will discuss its critique. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye.